Hi guys. Yes, another Raw Therapee Wavelets video. Say hello to Miguel. Big old boy giving me the stink eye. Doesn't like me being there with my big 500mm lens. He's not impressed at all, is he? Getting the old stink eye off a white-tailed eagle. But anyway, what are we going to do in this video? I'm going to address a little problem called noise. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to do is just flip this image back. This is the image processed, and what we'll do now is basically flip the image back to the old mybase.pp3 and just wait for it to toggle up. And there you go. Now, ostensibly, a lot of you might be thinking, well, Mandy, that doesn't look too noisy. Well, it's 5,600 ISO, 2,000th of a second, 0.67, in other words, 2/3 of a stop positive EV comp. And so it's been exposed to the right as far as a down, but it's a very, very gloomy, very overcast day. And I say in a lot of videos, when I talk about noise, that noise doesn't print. Well, if it's bad enough, it does. And this image is a very noisy image. As I said, shot on the D5, which is a weird sort of a camera, which can sometimes be a little bit more noisy than you'd expect. And, I mean, the noise in the image isn't all that bad until you take into account what's in the background. It's a very messy, out of focus background. But because it's relatively low frequency detail, that's where the noise shows up first. And because it's not a very smooth background, it's got a lot of random tones in it. Therefore, the noise is more prevalent. And video compression might not show this noise to quite the degree that I can see it on screen. But I mean, if I sort of come over here to this out of focus sort of green area, you can see in the darker tones especially, we've got quite a lot of noise. And of course, with it being off a D5, we've got quite a lot of noise all over the picture as it is. So we've got noise actually sitting inside of good old Miguel. And so, you know, I mean, we've got to do something about this noise. Now, I've already done a video, link upstairs, up there, down below, on the basics of noise reduction under the details panel inside of Raw Therapee. But we're going to use wavelets to actually reduce the noise in this image. And we will also get an increase in, or a perceived increase in sharpness, and a little bit of, how can I put it? It'll look a little bit more, the light will look a little bit more sculpted on the actual eagle itself. So, what are we going to do first? So we're back here at our default position, and so we'll just take or bring the processing tabs back, and I'm just going to scoot over here because I want to see noisy areas, dark areas, and the lightest areas in the image that are of any importance, in other words, the sharp detail. And the first thing I'm going to do is just lift the exposure a little bit. So I'm just going to come under the exposure tab, I'm going to come to lab adjustments, and I'm just going to pull up a straightforward L channel curve. I'll put it on with a control cage, and I think I'd better make this panel a bit wider so everybody can see what I'm doing. And I think I might as well go and shovel that panel over there to give myself some more real estate. And I'm just going to come to my midtones. You see this big spike here? These are the midtones of the image, pretty much. You can see they're a little bit canted over onto the left side of the histogram. But I'm just going to add a little bit of brightness. And now you can start to see that noise really start to show through in the image. And frankly, that's all we're going to do as an adjustment before we go into wavelets. Now I just need to come down here at 100% and just look at the image and take it all in. And you need to too, because you can see there's an awful lot of areas of the bird which are not in pin sharp focus. So they are lower frequency detail than you might imagine. I'm just going to have a short slurp of tea. Oh, that's better. And we've just got to take into account what is sharp and what isn't sharp, because noise always shows up in areas of lower frequency detail. So noise will show up in the background here, it'll show up here in the dark areas of the bird that aren't really in focus. So fundamentally, we've got to be a little bit careful of what we're doing. We don't want to apply too much of the noise reduction. So we're going to come over into the wavelets panel. In fact, we're not. I'm going to go over to the raw panel, and I'm going to switch out from the Amaze demosaicing algorithm to the RCD plus VNG4 demosaicing algorithm. So we double demosaicing. I'm not going to go into too much detail over that, because if you want to understand that, go and watch my Raw Therapee demosaicing video. Link up there, link below. So the other thing I want to say is, this is going to be a wavelets tutorial. What I really want you to do is, if you've not watched the previous wavelets tutorial video that I put up, stop watching this, go and watch that. Otherwise, you're going to be a little bit lost. And of course, the other thing is, if you enjoy this video, yeah, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below if you've enjoyed it. Share it with your friends. And yeah, if you're not already subscribed, click the subscribe button. Hit the old ringety-tingety bell to get a notification. And next time I put a video up, that's if I haven't put you to sleep before the end of this one. Righty, I do not want this video to go on as a ramble, but I bet it will. Righty, so the other thing I want to do is just engage capture sharpening. Now, some people over on the Raw Therapee dev team, if they watch this, are going to go, "No, Andy, no, you shouldn't put the sharpening on yet." Tough. Yeah, because I want to be able to see what's sharp and what isn't. And I'm not going to leave it on, but I'm just looking at my sharp details and the distribution of sharp detail and the areas I've got to be careful with when I do this noise reduction, because I've got some subtle detail in here, I've got some subtle detail down here, and I've got to be careful not to make the feathers on the bird look too plasticky. Yes, for want of a better definition. So what we'll do now is go and turn capture sharpening off, I think. Shouldn't we? Should we? Yes, we'll keep it turned off temporarily. Remind me to come and put it back on, will you? Alright, because what I want to do is just explain what's going on inside the wavelets tool. So I'm going to engage the wavelet levels tool, and I'm going to open the panel up. Now, in the previous wavelets video, we looked at contrast and using the contrast sliders and the number of decompositional levels that we were deploying on the image. In other words, wavelet levels. So I'm just going to leave it set at 7. I'm going to minimize the contrast module because I don't want that. We also had a little very, very brief introduction to the chroma module. I don't want to do any toning. All I'm interested in is this, wavelet settings, the denoise and refine, and the edge sharpness. Now, this is going to be a very, very, very bare bones, just to get you started, building block on the denoise and refine inside wavelets in Raw Therapee, because we are awaiting the release of Raw Therapee 5.9, which works slightly differently inside of wavelets. Plus, we've got a lot more tools with which to control things. So this is just something just to whet your appetite and get you started, and hopefully allow you to explore on your own the denoise and refine and edge sharpness dialog boxes inside of Raw Therapee 5.8 while we wait for 5.9 to be launched. Yes. So we've got, under denoise and refine, we've got level 1, level 2, level 3 and level 4. Those levels correspond to level 1, level 2, level 3 and level 4 under the contrast module. Alrighty. Now, what we need to do is we need to look at each one of these levels discreetly on its own. Alright? So, I'm going to just activate denoise and refine. And this link edge sharpness strength, or link with edge sharpness strength, we haven't got any edge sharpness strength dialed in at the moment, because you can see edge sharpness strength 0. But it does change the way these sliders behave. So I'm just going to unlink it just for a moment. And then I'm going to switch from process, which at the moment says all levels in all directions, to one level, and I'm going to look at level 1. Okay, so there is level 1, and we can't see a great deal, can we? Right, so we've got, and this is where it gets confusing for people, and you know, I mean, I wish there was an easier way of them laying this GUI out, but you see we've got a double-headed slider here, and I'm hovering over level 1, and it says denoise 0 and strength 0. For strength, with this unchecked, read contrast. So the contrast in level 1 at the moment is as it is in the image. So if I take the strength slider and move it all the way up to there, now you can start to see the bits of the detail of the image inside this level 1. And of course we can see we've got noise. Okay, we've got image over here, you can see the edges, but we've got noise in the background. So all I'm actually going to do is just sort of pull this over here, wait for it to load up again, and we can see the noise, and all I'm going to do is just lift the noise slider, and we're at 13 at the minute. Let's take it up to around about 19. And then what we're going to do is bring the contrast slider, or the strength slider I should say, back down. And don't go, I'm not going to go minus with it, I'll just leave it at 1. So its default position was on 0, I've just now got it on 1. So what I've fundamentally done is turn up the contrast, if you like, in level 1. Just need to be a little bit cautious here, and these are only preliminary settings. What we're now going to do is switch over to level 2, And now that's looking a little bit more familiar. We can see all our detail. I'm just going to get the strength or contrast slider, if you like, and just move it over to the right so I can see what I'm doing. And now you can see fundamentally we've got a lot of detail in the image in level 2, but also we've got quite a bit of noise over here. And obviously we've got that self-same noise in here as well on the body of the eagle, but this is relatively high frequency detail, so the detail is actually masking the noise. So what I'm going to do is just lift up the level of noise reduction, and of course I've got a sticky cursor here, so it has a tendency to mess me about. Let's put that back up there, sort of double click on there, and hopefully it'll stay where it is, and I can now come and move the noise reduction up. And where are we? That doesn't look too bad. You'll notice I'm not trying to remove all the noise, because obviously when I bring the contrast down, that noise will be less visible. So we're going to bring the contrast down again, and we'll sort of put it roughly where it belongs. Let's just hover over there. You can see it's minus 2.2. Don't want it to be minus, because we're talking about fine detail here. So I'll just put it up to 1. And as I said, I'll probably come back and adjust that a little bit later. So now we'll come to level 3. And we will go and get the contrast slider for level 3. And we'll move it all the way up. And you can see we've got a certain amount of noise in the background, but it's not as acute as it was in level 2. So level 2 so far is our main noise bearing level of detail. So let's just hope that contrast or strength slider stays where it is, and let's add a little bit of noise reduction there, and that'll probably do for that. Woohoo, just come here. That'll probably do there, and then we'll go and get the contrast or strength slider and sort of bring that down to there. And so you can see from an overall noise point of view, we've cleaned that level 3 up quite well. I reckon it's a little bit on the strong side, but well, there you go. And we can always go back and turn it down a little bit later on. So let's now go and view level 4. And there we go. We can see we've got noise which is a little bit on the blotchy side. So we'll just take up that strength slider again. Woohoo! Now we can see what we're dealing with in the background. So we will come and add a bit of noise reduction in there. I mean, there's nothing we can do about the actual dark areas or the bad bokeh, because there's just too much detail in it. In fact, I shot it at f8. Didn't help matters. It would have been better at f4.5, but then I wouldn't have had as much of the eagle sharp as I've got. So, you know, everything's a trade-off in this world, isn't it? And let's just bring the contrast slider back down again. And then what we'll do is we'll go and switch the process. In actual fact, we won't. I was just going to say we'll switch the process back to view all levels in all directions, but I'm just going to switch back to level 2, and I'm not going to adjust the sliders, but I am going to blow level 2 up so I can sort of see the edges. And what I want to do is I want to come to the edge performance, and always when you activate the wavelets panel in Raw Therapee, the edge performance always starts out at D4 standard. And so I'm just going to check out what D2 looks like, because it will change the edges just a little bit, and a little bit lower edge performance. Well, let's go all the way to D14, which is high. And you can see D14's produced some very, very strong, or much stronger edges than D2, that's for certain. But you've just got to look at the noise. If we switch back to, say, D6, let's switch back to D2 again. From a noise point of view over here, I think D2 looks a little bit better, but like I say, we can play with the noise performance. So I might split the difference and go for, wow, what's gone on there? I might split the difference and go for D10. Alright, so now I'm going to go for all levels in all directions. And let's come out to a 1-to-1 view. And there we go. So if I actually turn the wavelet levels off, there's our image with all the noise back in it. Right, so we've got all this noise in the background, and let's just sort of bring it down so we can see me getting the old stink eye again. So there is our original image, and the only adjustment that's on it is that little lift in the midtones in the lab, or the L channel of lab. That's all we're looking at there. If we now reactivate the wavelet levels, and you can see we've made quite a significant reduction in the noise in the background of that image, and we haven't really affected the eagle in as strong a way as we might have done. So you've just got to keep looking at your image at 1-to-1, and you've got to keep turning wavelet levels on and off, on and off, on and off, to gauge where you are. It's no good working by the numbers. A lot of people seem to think that working by the numbers is a good idea. Photography is a visual thing, so use your eyes and look at the screen and just see what things look like. And that is my best advice throughout all your processing. Don't go by the numbers. Numbers are very good, but at the end of the day, photography is a visual art form. Yes. Right. So what I'm now going to do is come back over to the raw panel, and now I am going to activate capture sharpening. Alrighty. So now we've got the capture sharpening enabled. Well, we haven't. There we go. So now things are looking a lot sharper on the bird. Has the noise gone up in the background? Not so much. So let me just go and activate the capture sharpening mask. And let's have a look to see what that sharpening mask looks like. Now, in the background, there's a lot of sharpening still showing up in the background. So what I really want to do, because we're going to activate the edge sharpening under wavelets, I don't want a boatload of sharpening on, and I also don't want any of that sharpening, or as little of that sharpening as possible, to be actually showing on the background. So what I'm going to do is come out to a fit to screen view so I can see the entire image. And then I'm going to open up the capture sharpening dialog box, and I'm going to change the contrast threshold from 22 up to 32, and let's just let that roll out. Let's go a little bit further. 39. That's looking quite nice and tight, isn't it? So we're getting very, very little sharpening showing on the actual background. So I'll just leave it where it is, and we might have to come back to that and change that. I don't know. So let's deactivate the sharpening mask, or not deactivate it. I always keep saying deactivate it. We're not deactivating it. All we're doing is hiding it. It is still in operation. So let's now go and have a look at our image at 100%. And you can see that noise reduction is absolutely excellent. I mean, to me, it's a bit on the heavy side. This image if we were to print this image out native size, it would have to go onto A2 paper. And in reality, that noise reduction for A2 is a little bit too much, in my opinion. But you've always got a get out of jail free card with wavelets. If I come back to the wavelets panel, this is the get out of jail free card. Strength, yeah, because what we can do is every effect that we put on in the wavelets panel, we can collectively drop the strength to sort of bring some of the original image back. So there we've got a little bit of noise in the background, certainly not as much as we have in the original, but if we just activate or reactivate wavelets, you can see we've just got a little bit of noise in there, but that wouldn't print, certainly not. And I might be prepared to actually run this image up to what, 30-40 inch print without too much problem. But we've not finished yet, so I'm going to put all that one back where it was. So we fundamentally got our contrast set and our noise reduction set over our first 4 finest detail levels within the wavelets panel. So let's just now occupy ourselves with colour noise in the green channel. Well, not colour noise, luminance noise, shot noise if you like, over here in this saturated green area. And we can also see this horrible out of focus tree, and we can see the bird. So we've got all the relevant detail in one view here. So I mean, we've got, as I showed you in the previous noise reduction video a few weeks back, that noise reduction is great if we are trying to separate out noisy tones on a grayscale. Here, grayscale noise reduction, visualization at least, is no good for us, because what we're trying to do is separate out high frequency and low frequency detail and give separate treatments of noise reduction, more on the low frequency detail, less on the high frequency detail. And overall, we've not done a bad job so far. However, what I'm now going to do is activate this link edge sharpness strength. So we're going to turn that on, and fundamentally it's not going to make any difference to the visual look of the image. All that does is change the behavior of these lower sliders. That's as far as I'm aware. The actual Rawpedia entry for wavelets has changed now. Yes, it has, because Javier has been hard at work rewriting this, and Wayne Sutton, all I can say is, Wayne, well done, sir, because he's actually translated all Javier's writings into English, and he's done a very, very good job. It's a lot more user-friendly than it was before. It makes a lot more sense, but some of it is still a little bit on the highbrow side. And yeah, so, and you've also got to remember that if you go and look at it now, this wavelets entry for Rawpedia is now pertinent to what will be Raw Therapee 5.9. So there are some tools mentioned in this entry over here on Rawpedia that you haven't got access to in Raw Therapee 5.8, the current public release of Raw Therapee. So let us now come back to Raw Therapee, and I'm now going to activate edge sharpness. Now, if Abby is watching this, he's going to go mental with me because this is not the way you're supposed to use this. But as I said, I'm just trying to give you a rough, quick idea of how you can work inside wavelets to reduce noise on a detail frequency basis. And so, yeah, all I do is show you what works for me, and you actually know it works because you're seeing it on the video. So it doesn't really matter if it works, if it sticks to the numbers or the workflow that the developers suggest. It's all a visual thing, so guess what? If it looks right, then it is right, despite what anybody else says. But does it actually look right in reality? That's the important thing. So the image is completely unchanged, even though we've gone link with edge sharpness strength and we've actually activated edge sharpness strength. Nothing's really happened because we haven't got any edge sharpness strength loaded in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it up to sort of 6 or 7. And now you can see that's made a heck of a difference, hasn't it? Alrighty. Now, it started to bring some noise back into the image, and it's made this out of focus tree a lot more viewable, and it stands out more in the overall image for the simple reason that it's increased the density of the blacks, and so it's thrown a bit more noise in there. So we have a radius control, we have a details control. Now these do make a difference, they certainly do. However, if you go and read through the documentation, it tells you what this radius slider does, what the detail slider does, and there is also an attenuation thing mentioned in the documentation, which isn't in 5.8, and so that is quite a useful tool. So yeah, but just in 5.8, if we just leave that alone and then just hit edge detection, rather like that, sort of cleans the image up just a little bit. And we've also got this Gaussian curve, and we've got this center line here. It's called an abscisia. Yes, it is. How cool is that? We've also got just above that graph, we've got this first level, and it's by default it's come on as reduced. Now what that's referring to is this level 1 here, and I don't want the effects that are put on level 1. These are this level of noise reduction. I don't want it reduced. So whether that's what's happening or not, I'm not quite sure, but I'm just actually going to put it either to unchanged, or we could actually go and reinforce the change that we made. Now, the other big thing here is with this edge detection on, if I grab this center point or this high point on the actual Gaussian curve, you see what we can do is switch out to threshold sliders. Yeah, now you can see that's made a massive difference to the image already, and it's dropped the overall effect in the background, and I think the actual bird looks really good as it is. And this threshold, you can get some really drastic changes in it with some very, very small movements. You see how we've sort of popped the face out there? You can play around with your own images with this threshold slider, but I actually like to go to the curve itself, and I might just give myself a little bit more contrast play in the highlights, which is what I feel is happening there. I don't quite 100%, understand this Gaussian curve, but to use it, you don't really have to. I, as a teacher, should actually understand this just a little bit more. I understand what the curve is, and I understand how it affects the image when we're talking about other adjustments, because you've seen me play around with these curves before. But in this, I'm just not too sure. So I'll just go on visual look. And if I just grab and I move this sort of down and to the right, I quite like the effect I'm getting there. I'm just going to pull the darker parts down, and I'll just perhaps move this very close to what they call the abscisia, I think, which is the horizontal line. And you can see now the adjustment is, it just sits very nice. We've not given the image a huge contrast boost, neither in the eagle nor in the background. If anything, we've taken the contrast of the background down. But overall, if we scroll all the way up and we turn the wavelet levels off, now we can see we've got all our noise, but we've got all our sharpening in the eagle. So forget about the background. If we activate the wavelets again, have we really lost a lot of sharpness in that eagle? No, not really. Now remember where the majority of detail is in that eagle. It's on level 2, but also so's the background. Noise. Yeah, the noise in that background, that's on level 2. So what I might do is just back off on the noise reduction on level 2 just a tiny bit, and just move that up there, whether that's making a great deal of difference. Let's take it up to a 200% view. Let's turn the wavelets off, and let's turn the wavelets back on again. Let's now go and play with this curve a little bit more. That's not looking too bad at all. And is the noise in the background becoming excessive? No, not really. Let's go and turn wavelets off. Let's go and turn wavelets on. And really and truly, we're keeping quite a lot of detail in this bird, but we are removing one heck of a lot of noise. All I'm going to do though is I'm just going to drop this vertically, sort of a little bit closer to the, is it abscisia? Yes. And if you actually go and just reduce the strength overall of the wavelets, we sort of drop that down to probably what, 60%. Now if we turn wavelets off, got a big increase in noise in the background. We can see all the sharpness in the bird, but we can also see all the noise in the bird. We turn it back on again. We're losing so little sharpness in that bird, but we're getting rid of quite a lot of noise. Let's turn it off. You just see a little bit of extra sharpness, if you like, come back in here, but the big test is in this area here between the bird's beak and his eye. So that's our original image, if you like, and there it is with wavelets activated. So the imperative is to keep all the detail, or as much physical detail, in that bird without keeping the noise in the background. And we've done so with quite a large degree of success, if you ask me. Alrighty. So what we've done is we've balanced the Denoise and Refine contrast and noise reduction with a very, very, very simple and very crude approach to edge sharpness. It's so crude. I can see one or two people just holding their head in their hands and nearly weeping at what I've done. But at the end of the day, we've got a really, really good result out of this. And it's come out better than I was expecting. So I'm just going to come out to a one-to-one view. And yeah, I think that looks really good. One-to-one, please, thank you. And all I'm going to do now is take it out to a fit to screen view. And I'm just going to come over to the colour panel. I'm going to open up the HSV equalizer. I'm going to go to saturation. And I'm just going to saturate the oranges, the reds, the yellows, and a little bit of the green. And then I think what I'll do is I'll copy that curve. I'll come over to the V for value. Yeah, in other words, lightness. And we'll paste that curve in there. And I don't think that looks bad at all. And so let's just take this up to a fit to screen view now. Well, we'll take him up a little bit further. Yeah. And I think he looks really, really good. Let's take him up to a one-to-one. And let's just check. You can see we've still got, because we've turned the wavelet levels down, so we're letting the original image sort of shine through from underneath, a little bit like changing the opacity of a layer inside of Photoshop. We're just keeping that fine little bit of noise in there, which adds to the detail, because we can't take it all away, otherwise the feathers will just look like plastic. And I think we've done a really, really good job on that. So that's 5600 ISO, made to look like it was about 150 or 200 ISO. Yeah, I'm quite pleased. All right, guys and gals, yeah, I hope you found that useful. I hope you like looking at Miguel. He's one of the oldest birds on the Norwegian Flatanger coastline now. I think he's on wife number 3. Yes, oh boy, he could tell you some tales. But you never get a chance to talk to him, because all he ever does is that, give you the stink eye, and it's quite scary. All right, guys and gals. Hope you've got something useful out of that. Don't forget, if you've liked it, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you think you might like to, because I'd be very grateful. I'm very grateful to all the guys and gals who are already subscribed to my channel. Click the ringety-tingety bell to get a next notification of next time I put a video up. And until that next time, stay safe, stay well, keep taking the pictures. Have a play in Raw Therapee in the wavelets panel, because don't forget, the one thing about the wavelets panel is you don't have to use every single panel that's in there. No, you don't. We haven't. All we've done is use a couple of them just to get rid of noise and do a little bit of sharpening. All right, guys, as I said, until the next time, I'll see you soon. Stay safe, stay well. Tooroo, ta-da.